Welcome everybody to the Maynooth University School of Business Research Beacons presentation for our Research Week at Maynooth University. I'm Professor Marion Crowley-Henry and I'm the Director of Research in the School of Business. So delighted to welcome you all to this presentation, which is going to be about less than an hour, where the different members across the beacons represented in our school are going to share some information on projects that are under those different beacons within the school and an overview of some research that's ongoing. So just to give some housekeeping, as I've let people know, this is being recorded and it will be edited and shared on the School of Business website afterwards, so people can especially for new colleagues, but others in the university as well, can get an overview and a flavour of what research we're doing in the School of Business that's aligned with our university beacons. The order of the day is we're going to have, after myself, we're going to have 4 presentations. So after me, we're going to have Wael Rashvan is going to talk about data science and digital transformation and talk us through different projects and focus in that area within the School of Business. Then we're going to have Nicola Mountford looking at the health and well-being side of things and that beacon as represented through research in the School of Business. Then we have Valentina Paolucci on the society and public policy side of things. And then last but by no means least, we have Michael Hayden on the sustainability and climate change side of things. So that's the order of running. Each of the presenters are going to have about 10 minutes just 5 to 10 minutes just to talk through the beacon. And they're each sharing some slides and we'll share those slides afterwards again on the School of Business website. So without further ado, I'll turn off my camera and mute myself and invite Wael to share what's happening in the School of Business on the data science and digital transformation side. Over to you, Wael.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining Data and Digital Transformation Beacon. And actually, Data and Digital Transformation Beacon sits on the right intersection at the Maynooth University Research Beacons and the mission of the IVI. And in its core, the beacon is about enabling responsible explainability or explainable and high impact digital transformation. And we try in the beacon to bring together data governance, AI, decision intelligence, and digital twins and simulation and other models. And over the next couple of minutes, I will just give you a quick what we're doing and how we connect research to real-world outcomes and how our colleagues across different disciplines can be involved. So let's first looking into where our beacon will within the wider Maynooth and IVI ecosystem. So our beacon acts as a business and organizational lens within the Maynooth wider data science and digital transformation ecosystem. And think about this beacon as a bridge, and this bridge is trying to connect the technical excellence of the university digital data and research through practical frameworks developed and operationalized by the IVI. The bigger view of Maynooth University beacon of data science and digital transformation focus more on science, algorithms, AI, and infrastructure. While our role here in the beacon in School of Business is to translate that knowledge into governance model, decision framework, and responsible transformation practices that organizations can actually apply. And through IVI, we engaging directly with industry leaders and policymakers, ensuring that our work doesn't stay within the academia, it's also influence practice, policy, and people. And to understand that more, I give you an idea about what kind of focus of research we're doing in this beacon. And the main idea is focusing on 4 big pillars of research. The first one is the digital intelligence, and here we're building and developing intelligence framework to helping organizations to make better and faster and more transparent decisions. Another pillar of research focus is about data value and insights. And in that pillar, we try to use the raw data into trustworthy. So translate that into trustworthy knowledge that drives performance and sustainability for organizations. Data governance also to ensure that data is in high quality, interoperable, and ethically managed across the system. And this is a very key important for digital transformation and data analytics. Responsible transformation is another pillar. It's embedding transparency, accountability, and explainability through digital journey of the organization. In short, that our research focus is to try to bridge data science and business transformation, try to take in technical breakthroughs in AI, in data analytics, and in optimization to translate them into practical human-centered adoption. And because the transformation is not about technology, it touches people, culture, and society, this is a natural space for collaboration with colleagues in different kind of disciplines. And to focus more on action on that, a big part of what we're doing is understanding why some digital transformation is successful in some organization and some is not. And through research and studies at IVI, we identified other kind of key enablers for that is strong leadership commitment, organization capability, workforce skills, and continuous upskilling and culture alignment with digital strategy is a key enablers for the success of the technology and data analytics and digital transformation. And by discovering that is just the first step. So it's our mission in this research beacon is to turn this into insights and into practices that can help the organizations to make successful transformation and data adoption. And through IVI, we co-develop frameworks and maturity models and to provide targeted support for business and service innovation and deliver training programs that empower organizations to lead their own transformation journey. This is where our research in the Beacon turns into real-world outcomes, equipping the organization to transform responsibly, sustainably, and confidently. And in this is just not only local perspective or national perspective, but this also expand the vision to the EU aspect and level of that. So our Beacon is working directly to support the European Commission vision and shaping the European digital future and digital decade policy program 2030. So the EU goals are very clear on that. So is to develop digitally skilled population and highly trained digital professionals to ensure secure, sustainable, and connected digital infrastructure, to accelerate the digitalization of business and at the same time digitalization of public services. And of these priorities, this is exactly mirror what we're doing in data and digital transformation Beacon in the School of Business. So our work on data governance and on decision intelligence and digital ethics directly supports the EU agenda by helping organizations to use data responsibly and effectively. And through IVI, we contribute to Europe Digital Campus goals to co-developing frameworks and maturity model that help businesses through business transformation, government logistic services, and people building the skills needed to move on to a digital economy. So in order to, this is not happened in the ARA community or the ARA team behind a structure, collaborative structure behind that, linking researcher, industry partners, and policymakers locally, nationally, and across the EU. And we, in this Beacon, we focus more on coordination, communication, and collaboration as a key aspect. And this means aligning research activities, responding strategically to funding calls, sharing programs through presentations and reports, and annual IVI summit is a big part for communication and connecting with industry and policymakers. We also invest on supporting early career researchers, promoting cross-Beacon collaboration and facilitating joint publication and proposals. And the leadership team here is Marcus, Professor Marcus, and Carol, myself joined recently, and of course the research office can help in that. So we try to keep this ecosystem connected and active in that sense. So we can see that this kind of data and digital transformation beacon is a more open community. So we want to connect to colleagues across different disciplines and perspectives, because this is a dimension that are essential for successful digital transformation and adoption of data analytics. And the more perspective we bring together, the more meaningful and human-centered our research becomes. So in order to give you an idea about what we're doing now and what kind of project, I give you just two examples of current projects that's running. So one of the great example is a digital construction cluster, which is led by Dr. Zora Bolzufakar in our School of Business. Zora has done a very fantastic work bringing together universities, industry partners, and national agencies to advance the use of digital twins in construction. The basic idea here for this cluster is focusing on how digital models of buildings and living digital twin driven version that updates in real time. And this can improve the design, the construction and operations and maintenance of the buildings. So under this initiatives and this project, the cluster has already attracted multiple company partners, and has submitted a proposal to EU and innovation partnership program with Enterprise Ireland. The goal is for this project is to make sure that the digital system can talk and communicate to each other, connecting design tools, Internet of Things devices, and data platform securely and efficiently using shared standards and ethical data practices. This is one of the perfect examples of how Beacon answers turning digital transformation research into rewarded impact through collaboration, innovation, and shared standards. Another example can expand to more practical and how to connect into SMEs and industry. Rethinking or rethink redesign is one of the most hands-on initiatives that creates and helping the SMEs to rethink how they can work, adapt digital tools to innovate their products, services, or processes to grow. We start here with short practical workshops where companies share challenges, explore ideas, and co-create improvement plans. Many of these companies then progress to funded innovation projects working directly with our researchers and partners, including Enterprise Ireland, Works, County Kildare, Chamber, Meath Enterprise, and Regional Scale Mid-East. This program not only supports regional business transformation, it also creates real learning opportunity for our students and research pathways for our academics. Rethink, redesign demonstrate how research and industry can work hand in hand to create tangible regional impact. And this is open also a very good opportunity for many of our researchers here in the School of Business is the scheme of Enterprise Ireland that can allow researchers to communicate and engaging with industry SMEs, and they can fund it for small ideas like 5K or 10K, and then going for IPP innovation partnership. That's very interesting. As I'm closing this for just giving an idea, what we're doing, digital transformation Beacon is not about technical challenge. It is about human and organizational one. It touches every discipline in our school and across the university, and from ethics, education to economics, healthcare, supply chain, finance, HR, sustainability, policy, and many other disciplines. So our Beacon provide a platform for collaboration where these diverse perspectives can meet. So creating opportunity for shared projects, interdisciplinary proposals, and collective impact. So if you research, you see this research explores how technology shapes people, organization, or society. So we're happy to work with you and to have a discussion with you. Thank you.
Thanks a million, Mariel. Thank you. Thanks so much for your presentation. Loads of very interesting projects and work going on there in the digital transformation space and the connection with business. So keeping us to time, I'll move on to our health and wellbeing beacon, and Dr. Nicola Mountford is going to present on that.
So this is just really going to be a taste of some of the research that's going on in the health and wellbeing beacon that I'm involved in, and the beacon is obviously a much wider group of people involved in lots of different things, but just to give you a bit of a taster. So thanks so much for the opportunity to talk here today. And what I decided to do was to pull together 3 different projects that I'm involved in that are all sort of around the theme of patient voice in decision-making in healthcare, how we organise healthcare decisions to make them more equitable, more impactful, and also more feasible. So that's the plan. And I suppose just a little bit of context, the Department of Health is Ireland's largest spending department. So in the very recent budget 2026, we had 27.4 billion euros allocated to healthcare in Ireland. And everybody will know there's just a constant focus on healthcare in the media, whether it's trolley crises or delayed children's hospitals or scoliosis surgeries or consultant contracts. It doesn't matter. It's constantly front of mind. And that's because we have a finite pot of funding. So even that 27 billion is only 27 billion. So every time we decide to spend money on one thing in healthcare, we are de facto deciding not to spend it on another aspect of healthcare. And so that raises the question of whether patients get to input into those decisions as to where that finite pot of money is spent. And it's just useful to just take a second to define some terminology that I'll use quite a bit here, which is patient and public involvement, or PPI. And PPI is about an active collaboration between researchers and individuals who have experienced the type of thing that the researcher wants to look into. So in my case, it would be patients, carers, clinicians, members of the public who try to access services, and so on and so forth. And PPI, unlike engagement, which is where we kind of go out to people after we've done the research and try to tell them about it, or participation, which is where we interview people or we survey people or we engage with them in the conduct of the research. Involvement is about having them front and center, from defining research questions to organising the research design, right through participation and engagement. So it's over the entire research life cycle. So the first project that I wanted to talk about was the REVA project. So REVA is the roles and influences of various actors. And this is about understanding patient voice and PPI in decisions as to where to allocate health research funding. So this looked at a funding scheme that's run between HRCI, which is the Health Research Charities Ireland umbrella group, and the HRB, the Health Research Board. They have a scheme where charities propose research projects, PIs develop projects, develop proposals, and those proposals ultimately are reviewed by a panel at the HRB level, and that panel has PPI members on it. So we conducted 28 interviews with panel members. We also reviewed hundreds of documentations that kind of underpin the scheme and the decision making to understand what that patient voice looked like in this particular scheme. And what we found was, so the panel gets in a room for 2 days, and over the 2 days, these scientists and these PPI members, hammer out, I suppose, discuss the different proposals and decide who to fund. And what we found was that this 2-day period of time spent in the room is really important. It's over that time that legitimacy is established for the different players in the decision-making process, and trust between the players grows. So that 2 days, although it might seem like a big sunk cost, is actually really important. But we also found that over that time, decision-making difficulty increases. So, I think we've all experienced this at the beginning. There's let's say you get 100 applications for a job, you can probably eliminate nearly half of those quite easily. It's as you start to get down to the smaller and smaller numbers that the decision becomes more and more difficult as they become closer together and harder to differentiate. And what we found was that as that happened within this decision-making scheme, the voice of the PPI representatives became stronger. So in the beginning, the PPI panel said, look, it didn't really matter whether the PPI was good or not, or what I thought of it. If it wasn't scientifically sound, it wasn't going to get any further in the process. So that was relatively easy. But then they started to build their own confidence and their understanding of the process as the time went on. And finally, when it came down to choosing between the final few proposals, the PPI aspects and voice became extremely important. So you can see here, if it's teetering on the brink, that's when a PPI score makes an impact. Or in a lot of cases, the ones that got over the line were the ones that had a strong PPI element. So PPI voice becoming stronger as the decisions get harder. And from this, we developed a report, and we also developed a kind of a infographic there, which describes the kind of the key elements for inclusive funding decision making around balance, an experimental attitude, providing training, giving time for this kind of roundtable discussion, emphasizing efficiency, and also building up a sense of personal reward. So that was the first project. The second project was about orphan drug reimbursement decisions. And this was a project with Dr. Gillian Moran, a colleague here in School of Business. And we wanted to understand how patient perspectives were influencing rare disease and drug reimbursement. So, you know, rare disease, it's a very small group of people who have this disease. So developing drugs is very expensive. And so, so the drugs ultimately are very expensive for this small group of people. We looked at one particular drug, Orkambi. Orkambi was considered really a miracle drug for people who suffered with cystic fibrosis. And cystic fibrosis is a rare disease, but Ireland has one of the highest prevalences of the disease in the world. So in June 2016, the NCPE, which is the National Centre for Pharmacoeconomic Assessment, decided that, or recommended rather, that the drug shouldn't be reimbursed at the price that Vertex, the manufacturers, were looking for at that time. But just less than a year later, that decision was effectively overturned, although the price had probably come down, and reimbursement was approved. And we wanted to understand what had happened in different arenas that led up to that decision. And we looked at social media in the form of Twitter. We looked at the mainstream media in the form of Irish newspapers, and we looked at political arenas by looking at Dáil debates. And we tracked different discussions across those three arenas in relation to Orkambi reimbursement. So you just see the top line there, for example, patients set up a Yes Orkambi hashtag, so an activist hashtag, and they put out this call to, you know, please don't put a price on our lives. And that pricing life mantra moved from Twitter into the Dáil, where opposition politicians were talking about pricing life, and then into the national newspaper, where the NCPE CEO has to respond to this idea of pricing life. And we can see other examples there, which I won't go into in terms of time. But ultimately from this, we developed the idea, Gillian and I, that there's a range of different types of arenas that range from cold to hot, and cold arenas are very process focused. They try to exclude emotion from decision making, and they place a very high value on professional expertise. Whereas hot arenas are much more person focused, and they embrace and allow emotion, and they place a much greater emphasis on lay or lived experience expertise. And you can see there the different, so social media being a hot arena, whereas the NCPE's expert evaluation processes would have been what we would have called a cold arena. And then just my third and final thing, and this isn't really a project per se, but it's just to talk about the PPI Ignite network, which is a national network, and it's aiming to embed public and patient involvement, capacity and culture in universities across Ireland. Maynooth University will be a lead site in the next phase, which should kick off towards the middle of next year. And myself and Mark Robinson from biology are the Maynooth leads for this. And I just wanted to highlight it, I suppose, as an opportunity coming up for training for yourself or for your PhD students if you want to understand how to embed PPI. There's also seed funding to forge relationships with other organisations like charities and so on. And then just, I suppose, just overall in conclusion then, just to say that certainly from these combined projects that I've been involved in, it's clear that patient voice is starting to reshape Irish healthcare and healthcare research from, initial tokenism through to a greater partnership and eventually into co-leadership. And the next step, I suppose, if I was to get to talk to policymakers, I would be saying that we need to start making this patient voice structural and not optional. So, and that would allow us to kind of warm up these cold arenas, and it would mean that the outputs and the decisions that come out of these arenas might be better able to stand up in the court of a public opinion and not be overturned. So just to acknowledge my collaborators, Gillian, Mark and Emily, who's the RA on the REVA project, and the funding provided by the different funders for that. And just to say that the Health and Wellbeing Beacon, I'm just a member of that beacon, this is just a taster, and Dr. Damien Cassels is the leader of that beacon, and his email address is there should you be interested in getting further involved, and I would highly recommend that. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million, Nicola. Thanks so much for sharing. And it's great to see some examples of research that's taking place under the beacons as well. So fantastic. Without further ado, I'll keep going and move on to our society and public policy beacon. And Dr. Valentina Paolucci is going to speak on that. So Valentina, over to you.
Hi, Marion. Thank you, Marion, and hi, everybody. My name is Valentina Paolucci, and I just wanted to say that I just stepped in as interim lead for the Society and Public Policy Beacon. So this presentation is very much a collaborative effort with my colleague, Dr. Gail Shepherd, who normally leads the Beacon, and she's temporarily stepped back from the role, but she'll be returning in January. So, as my colleagues highlighted already, our university research beacons are really designed to bring together expertise from across disciplines to address complex real-world problems. So they encourage collaboration and a holistic approach to research that has tangible social impact. And this is what I will try to highlight today about our work. So the Society and Public Policy Beacon in particular focuses on understanding the relationship between societal transformation and public policy. So, for example, how policies are developed, implemented and evaluated in response to contemporary challenges. So the aim would be to generate evidence-based insights that can guide the formulation and assessment of public policy. And it's very much about translating research into practice and contributing to informed decision-making. So the School of Business plays a crucial role in connecting social, economic and organizational perspectives to these policy debates. And that's exactly what I'd like to discuss next. So we contribute to this university beacon by examining how organizations, labor markets and institutions interact with policy and social change. And we approach this through research that cuts across multiple spheres: taxation, sustainability, value chains, employment relations and health policy. And our goal is not just to study policy impact, but also to work alongside policymakers, social partners and communities, trying to involve them as early as possible in co-designing research and identifying policy solutions together. And in this way, the idea is to provide findings, suggestions and guidelines that are evidence-based, but also acceptable to various stakeholders, so to support decisions that make a positive difference for individuals and society at large. And these slides should give you a sense of the diversity of research areas in our beacon within the School of Business. And our research spans multiple levels, from micro policy design to organizational practices and individual experiences, all contributing to a deeper understanding of how business and society interact. So, for example, some colleagues focus on government, export promotion policies, institutional legitimacy, social innovation, while others explore public policy implications of accounting reforms, institutional change within the public sector. We also have research addressing ethical and behavioral dynamics in organizations, such as, for example, surveillance in retail, patterns of giving in the non-profit sector, and the use of gifting in consumer context. My own work connects directly with the European policy arena, particularly through research on wage-setting institutions such as collective bargaining and tripartite social dialogue, as well as the European Union AI Act, which is the first legal framework on AI worldwide. And there is expertise within the school on equality issues, including the study of gender pay and promotion gaps and issues such as sustainable careers, and more broadly, mobility and inclusion in the labor market. So in terms of our ongoing work within the Society of Public Policy Beacon, our focus is very much on building visibility and connection, both across Maynooth University and externally. A big part of what we do is sharing opportunities, communicating upcoming funding calls, special issues, invitations, and collaboration possibilities that can strengthen our collective research profile. We're also keen to recruit new members, staff, postdocs, PhD students that are doing work that is aligned with the Beacon's themes that we cover, and trying to support early career researchers, in particular through mentoring and publication guidance. Another priority is to maintain an updated record of research within the Beacon so that we can better showcase the breadth of expertise that exists across the School of Business. And finally, we want to facilitate the creation of smaller thematic clusters, encourage interdisciplinary conversations, and trying to host regular meetings and working sessions to keep, in a way, the Beacon dynamic and engaged. So when we say impact, I'd like to spotlight some examples of direct policy impact coming from the School of Business. And this is one. So the Commission on Generational Renewal in Farming, which was established by the Minister for Agriculture, has begun to address the urgent challenge of Ireland's aging farming population. So in September 2025, the Commission published a comprehensive report outlining key findings and recommendations. And Dr. Michael Hayden is heavily cited in this report for his extensive research on farm succession, collaborative farming, and the socio-economic barriers to generational renewal. And his studies explore issues such as the mismatch between perceptions and realities of farm succession, how collaborative farming models can support younger entrants, and the role of pension policy in shaping retirement decisions among older farmers. Alongside this, I'd like to spotlight another important research initiative connected to this Beacon, that is the Research Ireland funded project Invisible Work, Understanding and Measuring Research Translation into Policy, led by Dr. Olga Riazanova and Professor Peter McNamara. This project looks at the academia policy nexus and how research travels into the world of policymaking. So the kind of networks, relationships, and activities that make this possible, but that remain somehow unseen. And as part of this study, a national survey is actually now live, inviting academics to share their experiences in the way in which they engage policymakers. So this is really valuable opportunities for us and colleagues across Maynooth to contribute the insights and help building sort of an evidence base based on how we as researchers connect with public policy. Holga should be attending the meeting, I think, and she would really appreciate if you could spare a moment to fill out the form. Olga, if you are there, please pop in the link on the message box if you can, so that maybe colleagues who want to do that can fill out the form. And if you can't do it now, I will do it at the end of the presentation. And you could also access the survey directly through the QR code that you can see here on the screen. And I would really encourage everyone to spare a few minutes to participate in this survey. And here it's just a taste of the most recent publications that we have in this beacon. So there is Donito, who looked into the efficiency and motivations for contracting out in the public sector in social services in Spain. Dr. Gail Shepherd, who examined the divergent pathways and PPP development in the United Kingdom and in the Republic of Ireland. My work with Professor Beer Roach in UCD on decentralized pay coordination in Europe and Ireland. Professor Marianne Crowley-Henry paper on the trying to understanding female white migrants' academic career narratives using an intersectional feminist approach, and Wang Ying article on CAPM and skewness pricing under probability weighting based on the generalized transform. Now, there are other news that I wanted to share with you. So new funded projects, a funded project that I'm leading with colleagues in UCD and Scuola Normale Superiore di Pisa that is looking into promotion strategies for collective bargaining in the European Union in view of the implementation of the EU directive on minimum wage, the Roach project by Gail Shepherd that is looking into private-public partnerships in open research in health ecosystems. And I also wanted to draw your attention on a new project and a PhD funded opportunity by my colleague Alireza Keshavars, who is trying to recruit PhD students looking at recruitment and retention challenges in Ireland's healthcare sector. Applying enhanced analytics to design a recruitment platform. Deadline for applying is the end of October. So if you know of anybody who might be interested in this opportunity, please get in touch with Ali. And then I wanted to lastly draw your attention on the work of Dr. Nicola Mumford, who represented Maynooth at the Research Ireland's New Strategy Development Workshop last April. And finally, I'd like to end with one of our ongoing initiatives, which captures the somehow engaged and interdisciplinary research that we do in this beacon in the business school, which is the Fertility at Work Lab. And this project is led by Professor Marianne Crowley-Henry and myself in collaboration with Dr. Wael Rashwan, and focuses on the intersection between work, health, and reproductive justice. And our goal is to advance evidence-based understanding of how fertility and reproductive health challenges intersect with employment practices and workplace culture, an area that has been largely invisible in policy debates and the implications in the workplace. There are no formal accommodations for fertility treatment. And this initiative brings together academics, practitioners, unions, and advocacy groups. And some of our societal impact champions include Marian Fertility Clinic, the Financial Service Union, the Irish National Teachers Organisation, and NICEG, the National Infertility Support and Information Group. And together we are building a platform to co-design policy solutions, raise awareness, and ensure that fertility and reproductive health are recognized as part of an inclusive and equitable employment environment. And yeah, so thank you so much for your attention, and I hope this somehow captured your interest. And if you'd like to collaborate with us in any shape or form, feel free to get in touch with me and Gail from January when she will return to the role.
Thanks so much, Valentina. Speed tour through all the society and public policy initiatives going on in the school, or giving a snapshot of them. And by no means least, Mike, we're onto the sustainability, and just to note, we're going the order alphabetically, so that's why the digital transformation, D comes before S. So the sustainability beacon is the last one to feature, but without further ado, over to you, Michael Hayden, to talk us through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion, and thank you for the opportunity to present this research beacon of sustainability and climate change. So good afternoon, everyone. So firstly, I'm going to give a general overview of some of the research going on within the beacon, and then I was asked to give a spotlight on some of my own research. So firstly, the Sustainability and Climate Change Beacon is made up a lot of active faculty members, and you can see the full list there and on our screen, and our leader, the research beacon lead, is Dr. Patrick Rigger-Muller. In terms of the university research beacons, as you know, one of them is sustainability and climate change, and that's where the research beacon within the School of Business fits in. We look at sustainable business and consumption, and also renewable energy and green technologies. That's a lot of the focus of the main work going on in the School of Business and how it links with the overall university research beacons. The School of Business specific objective is to explore the process and consequences of sustainability in physical, ecological, economic and social environments. And we have a more formal definition there, which I won't read out to you, but it's looking at promoting sustainable business practices throughout the world, basically, and through lots of different industries. In terms of the research that's ongoing within the School of Business, we've various research interests. There's in energy management and the built environment, finance for good, the role of financial tools in the pursuit of the sustainable development goals, educational aspects of renewable energy systems. My own research looks at sustainability in food and agriculture. There's research on the decarbonisation of transport and life cycle analysis of fuels. We also look at work around sustainability of the circular economy, carbon green accounting, and knowledge management and sustainable performance. So that's just to give you all a bit of a flavour of the various topics that are being researched by our faculty members. In terms of my own research, I was asked to just give a brief overview of some of my own projects. So I'm an assistant professor of accounting, and my research lies within sustainable agriculture. And as we all know, there's three elements of sustainability: environmental, economic, and social. And my research looks at all three aspects in various ways. So in terms of economic, I've looked at pensions and retirement income for the farming community, financial decision making, and the financial viability of farm enterprises. From a social perspective, I've looked at farm succession and generational renewal, as that is one of the main societal challenges facing the sustainability of the agricultural industry. And then finally, from an environmental perspective, I have a recent project which is looking at renewable energy in agriculture. And that's what I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail for the rest of the presentation. So this project was called Agri-Renew, which is looking at the engagement levels of the farming sector in renewable energy and other bioeconomy projects. It is a collaboration between Maynooth University and Teagasc, and is funded by the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Myself and Professor Fabiano Polento and Gráinne Mulcahy are the Maynooth University team, and from Teagasc we have Anne Kinsella and Pine Beckett. So in the context, the overall context for this research project was that, well, a key challenge facing the agricultural sector is the adoption of farming practices to develop a sustainable food supply in an environmentally sustainable manner. But also we know that farmers need to embrace the advancements in renewable energy. But to date, really, the engagement levels of farming sector has been quite low, and this project set out to understand that in more detail. Farmers are also faced with balancing economic and environmental sustainability, as many farms are economically vulnerable at present. And in that context, I wanted to look at, well, yes, we all know we have to embrace environmental and sustainability challenges, but from a farming business perspective, we also need to look at the economic challenges facing them. We also need to reduce carbon emissions, and we know that the government has set ambitious targets for 2030 that when they want to reduce emissions, and specifically in the agricultural sector, as that is one of the main contributors in Irish industry. So in that context, the objectives of this study was to conduct a comprehensive evaluation of the engagement levels of farmers in renewable energy projects through an extensive stakeholder engagement process. We interviewed farmers, agricultural advisors, and renewable energy providers to understand the various barriers, challenges, benefits, and drivers of why farmers are or are not engaging in renewable energy. As I'm an accountant, I'm always interested in looking at both from a financial and a non-financial perspective. So we broke those barriers and challenges and drivers into various financial and non-financial issues. And at the end of the project, we hope to develop an educational program which will help transfer knowledge to farmers on the findings of our study. So to briefly just give you a flavour of some of those drivers and benefits of engagement in renewable energy that we have found, there's quite a comprehensive list there, which is broken into financial and non-financial. I won't go into them all in detail, but you can see definitely the primary driver or benefit for farmers engaging is financially focused. There's either increased income, or there's cost savings. There's financial incentives to get involved. There's relatively short payback periods on some projects, and they're the main financial drivers. Other non-financial drivers that are driving engagement is that it could be an exit strategy. Large-scale renewable projects are where there's no farm successor. Maybe it's an option for farmers to exit farming. A lot of farmers are encouraged by seeing proof of concept or other projects being run by neighbours, and that's one of the key peer-to-peer learning is happening. Obviously, environmental awareness is one of the drivers, but to be honest, a lot of the feedback from the interviews is that it needs to make financial sense, as well as creating a work-life balance, a potential exit strategy, and all of those non-financial issues. And then on the other side, we have barriers and challenges to engagement. There's quite a lot of these in terms of, and again, they're split between financial and non-financial. In terms of large-scale renewable projects, there's quite a lot of non-financial barriers in terms of time delays, getting planning permission, social and community resistance, grid capacity from the infrastructure of the ESB network, and a lot of those financial issues are causing farmers not to engage in renewable energy, even though perhaps they should be. From a financial side, there's also quite a significant number of barriers. Some projects can involve a significant capital outlay. There is high operating costs. There's a difficulty in accessing credit. There is a lot of tax and inheritance issues to be looked at. And farmers have a lot of other financial commitments, and sometimes renewable energy is not the priority of the investment there's a lot of other legislation and regulations that they need to comply with. So sometimes the opportunity cost lies elsewhere. As part of this project, we also looked at a techno-economic and environmental assessment of looking at solar PV panels for dairy farms. So looking at some case farms, we looked at the energy consumption profiles of those farms. We looked at the solar irradiance data in their areas, and we developed a system which would maximize the use of solar energy to power the dairy farm. We then looked at key performance indicators to measure its performance. There were payback period as one of the main ones. These solar panel projects have relatively quick payback of 3.25 years and 3.9 years for the different types of farming. So we can see that there's huge benefits from both financial and non-financial. So the levelized cost of electricity is quite low at 11 and 12 cents for each of the respective farming types. And even more importantly, perhaps from a sustainability perspective, the emissions of the farm is 75% reduction with this type of energy system compared to a conventional off-the-grid system. So based on all of that preliminary findings and more detailed findings, which we're writing up at the moment, we have come up with some recommendations for policyholders, which will be fed into both the SEAI and government departments. So financial incentives are key for this continued success of the adoption of renewable energy in agriculture. Peer influence and peer-to-peer learning seems to be a key way for farmers to engage in such projects. There's huge issues with the upgrade of the energy network and the infrastructure, and that needs to be looked at from a government level. There's also considered to be a lot of complexity and red tape around applying for planning permission and grants and financial information around these systems. Education is key. There's a lot of information gaps emerging from both farmers, agricultural advisors, and in that context, we also need to provide professional advisors, agricultural consultants, accountants. They need more training in this area. There's a huge issue with the change of land use. So lots of people believe that should or should not good agricultural land be put into large-scale solar development. Others will say that we should exhaust rooftop solar or complement it with vertical solar panels. There's lots of different, will we say, opinions on that, and it needs to be, the various options need to be explored. Farmers believe that there should be more public recognition for their role in creating renewable energy to support them. We also need more research to explore alternative methods of hybrid farming, so how we can farm in traditional farming practices with renewable energy. And finally, increased access to low-cost finance is an area that needs to be addressed. So that's just a brief snapshot, hopefully, and a flavour of a particular projects that I'm working in, and gives you some idea of research that's ongoing in the School of Business on sustainability and climate change. So thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thanks a million, Michael. I think we can all give a virtual round of applause to all the presenters. And thanks so much. We're nearly up to time, but I just wanted to close off and say a few things. Those of you on the call, I'm sure you can see that there is overlap between the beacons, which is really interesting. There is the breadth of research, the multidisciplinarity even within our school. I do want to flag that new members are always welcome, and new projects under the beacons are welcome too. So just because an area you might be interested in didn't feature today, that doesn't mean it's not welcomed. We're a very inclusive school and academic freedom, so everybody's welcome. There are individual team sites set up for each of the beacons. So if you are a member, you can access those team sites. And if you, I can see if I can quickly just share my second screen, so I'm going to be looking over this way. On our School of Business website, if you just click in there under the research side, you'll come to this page, and if you scroll down, you'll see our research beacons and our research beacon leads. So for anybody on the call, new or old, there you'll get an idea of who to contact as your first port of call if you want to join a beacon, and they can give you access to that Teams site where you can get more information or share information under that Teams.